Now, fear is an emotion. Fear is universally described as, psychologically speaking, the emotion that we feel or the reaction that we have when we perceive a potential threat to self. And all psychologists everywhere pretty much agree with that basic definition of fear. And that is not new information, frankly. What is new information are the granular variables that come together to create our unique instances of fear. Like, why are you afraid of spiders and I'm not afraid of spiders? Those things are determined by some unique variables that we have within our mind. But before we discuss those, let's back up a second and discuss what emotions are from a basic perspective. Now, emotions, as defined by a USC researcher, and he wrote a book, Self Comes to Mind. His name is Antonio Damasio. He defines emotions as programs within the brain or the mind that are designed to urge us into action. Now, they are a subconscious process. They're created below our waking awareness, and then they arise into our waking awareness after they're already created. And they are indeed, I think, programs or responses from our subconscious awareness that help urge us into action. It's information being pushed up to the top for us to review and then make a decision on. And so in the instance of fear, whenever you fear anything in the world, whenever you feel a nervousness about anything, whenever you fear a panic or experience a panic about anything, it is always something from your subconscious being thrown up into your waking awareness to say, hey, there could be a potential trouble here. Let's look at this. Your nervous system is a basic comparator. Every piece of information that you'll ever get from your nervous system is basically the difference between looking at two different things and creating the equation of the difference between those two things, and then it sends you that information. For instance, when you put your hand on the stove, it doesn't say, hey, this is 160 degrees hot. We might want to remove our hand from the stove. No, what it's saying is, hey, this is much hotter than it was a second ago. And it hurts, and cells are being damaged, and we need to remove our hand from the heat. And in fact, the message doesn't even reach your brain. You don't even get input. A nervous system cell in your backbone makes the decision to say, hey, let's move that hand away from the heat so that we don't destroy any more cells based on the difference in heat from one moment to the next. And one of the cool things that I discovered as a kid was when I went to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, Illinois, there were these two coils, one with warm water and one with cold water, and they were intermixed, one right next to another, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, or warm, cold. And then when you put your hand on it, they were just close enough together that it fooled the nervous system into thinking, God, that's hot. And you put your hand on it and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be burned. But the reality was when you put your finger on each one of the individual coils, you could feel the hottest was just warm. And the cold was actually pretty cold. But the difference in temperature between the two was what your nervous system was, or what my nervous system was reporting to get that super hot effect. Well, that's all the nervous system does is report on two different things. And so when it's creating the emotion of fear within you, it's basically just, looking at and comparing two different things in your mind. What are those things? I'm about to tell you. Okay, so every emotion that you have, every emotion that you ever will have, every emotion that you ever have had from the time of your birth to the time of your death is based on two different variables coming together in your mind and being compared. The first variable is your perception of what it is that's going on around you. It's just simply taking in all the things that are around you. You're looking for threats over here, over here, over here, over here. Could this be a threat? Could this be a threat? Could this be a threat? And your perception then creates an appraisal process of, okay, so this baseball flying past me is not a threat, but this baseball flying at my head is a threat because, the definition of you is potentially at risk, which is fear is a potential threat to self. And so you duck almost subconsciously without your consent. duck out of the way, you flinch, startle reflex, etc. Well, the second thing is just exactly what I spoke of a second ago. The second thing that your brain is looking at is the list of things that needs to be protected, right? Your limbic system's always looking around for threats, but then a second question must be asked. A threat to what exactly? Right? When I look at a leafcutter ant, do I know that I have leaves? If I have leaves, then that leafcutter ant is a threat to me. If I don't have leaves, then leafcutter ant's probably cool and we're probably going to get along just fine. Well, there creates a necessity for a sense of self within the mind. Now, your sense of self is, of course, your body, because when the baseball flies at you, you don't even really need to think about it to duck out of the way. It's an involuntary response, autonomic response, and other things then can also be attached to your idea of self. And from that point forward, you start to attach to, your idea of what you see when you look in the mirror. So, if you see a snake on the ground, you get nervous because that snake is a threat to your body self. But then that gets more complex over time. As we learn who and what we are, different ideas get attached to that idea of self that we have in our mind that becomes that laundry list of things that then must be protected. So when someone says, "You're a jerk, Sean," well, my name is attached to my sense of self and my whole, aura of existence, my personality, etc., all gets wrapped up into that. So when somebody says I'm a jerk and they attack me, then I start to worry, wow, am I a jerk? Am I being a jerk? Holy cow, that's a miniature version of fear that is coming out of me. Or I start to attach to ideas of the people around me. So if other people around me start to get sick or a potential threat to them occurs, I can feel fear for them because they then become a portion of my self map. They have become a portion of my definition of existence that then must be defended, must be protected at all costs. And if any perception comes in from around the world that is associated with one of those people that I'm connected to, then I start to feel an emotional response associated with that, including fear, okay? I also get attached to ideas of politics, ideas of religion, ideas of my life story, ideas of my stuff. Oh my God, there's a tornado back at home, at the house, has all my stuff blown away, and I'm afraid of losing all my shit, right? And the same is true for you. You have a definition of self in your mind that, by the way, isn't the true story, okay? All of that stuff that you think is you in your mind isn't you. But you have this thing that governs all your emotions within you, and it's called yourself, and it's your laundry list of definition of who and what you think you are. And so, although we've understood fear for thousands of years, literally, we never really understood our individual fears and what caused the little worries, what caused the little moments of panic, what caused the fear that our project at work isn't going to be received well by management, right? And so now with this new definition of self, which I came up with a couple of decades ago, but which science has now completely supported, that's exactly how it works. We have this laundry list of understanding of all the things that we attach to that, we then have emotions about, including fear, such as when we're attached to our sports team. And they are 4th and 1 on the goal line, and it is the end of the game, and we are not certain that they are going to score or lose the game, and that worry comes up, that fear, that anxiety comes up. That is associated with our attachment of that team on our self map. That's our favorite team, and we now have a perception that is going to potentially devalue or attack or bring that team into threat based on what happens in the next few seconds, and so we're on the edge of our seat. That's how fear works. Anytime you have a perception that then potentially threatens something on our self map. So this is our self map, and every one of these little dots is something, an idea, a person, an attachment, a favorite color that you have. And when someone says, wow, green has been identified as the color for pedophiles, you're like, fuck, my favorite color is green. Are you serious? And then you start to worry. Well, you have all of these things on your self map that is created in your mind. Again, this is bullshit. This is not really you, but this is how your mind works. That then comes into threat, and then you start to create fear. So now, there is one thing that you can do to reduce fear in your life. Your answer to creating a fearless life, your answer to dominating fear, and this is everyone's answer, by the way. There is no alternate option for this. There is no other strategy that's going to work, period. Because this is how fear works. This is how fear is defined. And if you try anything else, you're going to fail. You have to adjust the variables that come together to create your fear in the first place.